Hey, middle-aged gamers, welcome back to another podcast. And look, our French brother from another mother is back from his vacation slash work because he worked in France and also had a holiday. So we're very glad to have him back. Lots of news going on, games coming out, graphics card questions, questions about Activision Microsoft, which Antoine is going to answer just now. Stay tuned, grab some popcorn, but probably not at 9 a.m. in the morning if you're in Taiwan, but maybe in the night. Sit back, relax, listen, get everything you need to know for the week, and then move on with your day. So, as usual, let's start with Antoine's story first.
Yes, and as you said, so I'm gonna start with the Activision Blizzard because this is a series which have been running for a while now, and it has to come to a very, very quick end. Why? As you know, for Microsoft to buy Blizzard, they need to have the agreement of Europe, UK, US. Europe said yes. UK said no. US said maybe. The FTC said not so much. They were not so happy about it and they tried to delay the deal. And there's a judge, a lady called Jacqueline Scott Corley, which ultimately ruled in favor of Microsoft and said, it's okay, go ahead. So US are okay with it. Now, CMA, which is the UK commission, say, okay, both of them are okay, we are okay to start negotiating with you. So they're not completely against it and they need to be quick because for me we are July 11th and if this deal is not brokered by July 18th, Microsoft will need to pay Blizzard $3 billion of canceling the agreement. Therefore, they need to wrap this up in 7 days. And it's rather late today, so let's say 6 days.
I mean, why would they pay the money? I'm curious if they're not going to cancel. Like, if they're not going to cancel, then they can just. Are you saying they have to pay the money because the law canceled it? Is that what you mean?
It was
I'm not exactly sure it works, but it's a 3 billion breakup fee. They call it
yeah.
breakup fee if the deal is then closed by July 18th.
It was part of the contract to say like it has to be done by this date. You can't just draw it out forever. So they put like a term saying like it has to be done by this date. And if it's not done by that date, then you have to pay basically the money as
So
if
it's
you're
not like
canceling.
a breakout fee. It's just like, you didn't push this deal through, so then you have to pay money.
Right. So the assumption is like, you can't draw us out forever. So if by this date we're assuming you're canceling it, so you would have to pay us this money, the same amount of money you would have to pay if you had canceled, basically.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So I was confused. I thought this was like a cancellation fee, but they're never going to cancel because this is too beneficial for them.
Yeah, it is a cancellation fee, but it is a cancellation fee, but it's because they were expecting to be done by this point. And what's also worth noting is that originally they have to, it takes I think 2 days to get the deal through or something like that. And the worry was that even if they got the go ahead, there wouldn't be enough time to get the deal done, and then they would have to do it anyway. But the judge actually, because originally you have to wait a certain amount of time before after the court date before they could actually apply. But then the judge actually moved that time forward, so now they can't do it before 11:59 p.m. on July 14th. So they have the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, and I guess the 18th. They have like a 4-day window, and they have to do the deal in that time. But originally, that window wasn't big enough, so the judge opened up the window a little bit bigger for them.
Will I get the whole channel ban if we start talking about, like corruptions and political bribing and things like this? Or
No, I don't think so.
Well,
not saying,
yeah, you're talking about the judge's son.
I'm not saying there was. I'm just saying that paying 3 billion breakup and paying a few people around, maybe cheaper. Anyway,
Yeah, there were
I'm saying
also people pointing out that the son of the judge is a Microsoft employee.
no.
Yeah, so
Shame.
yeah. So people were questioning like, why is that seems suspicious? But I mean, it seems to me that if that had been an issue, you would have thought that the FTC would have brought it up when she was originally selected and been like, no, this judge is biased. We need a different judge. So the fact that they didn't do that, I would assume that they were okay with it. So.
We trust in audits. and compliance.
And just to add a number on hand, like Microsoft, as of March of this year, had $104 billion in the bank, as in cash on hand. So them paying a $3 billion breakup fee and then saying, "Okay, take two, let's do this again," is not a big deal at all.
No.
And if you want to talk about money, of course, the Blizzard shares completely went through the roof with an 11% markup today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not surprising at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, the whole FTC stuff is interesting. So if you're not American, right, you would know, that the current chairman of the FTC is a Democrat, Alina Khan. She's a really, really smart lady. She wrote a bunch of papers when she was a professor at Yale Law, saying that big tech is a cancer on society, and Microsoft, of course, is big tech. And so she's been going after everybody, Facebook, Google, etc. And again, me being a left-leaning liberal, I'm totally on board with it, except for this case because I think Microsoft should own Activision Blizzard. But so yeah, no, so she's and a lot of the things that are happening at the moment, legally speaking, in the States with regards to the FTC, people have been criticizing because actually she is a lawyer by profession, but she's never ever practiced law. So people saying, like, oh my God, this is amazing, smart woman, but she has no experience in the courtroom, and that is another sort of criticism of the current sort of ongoing, not just this legal case, but other legal cases as well. Okay. And then with that story over, let's go on to Adam's first story, which I'm curious what it is.
Okay, so actually, this was going to be my first story, but I let Antoine have it because he needs stories too.
Oh, sorry about
No,
that.
it's fine. I was kind of like, I'm a PlayStation guy. I don't know if I can do an unbiased opinion on this, so I'm gonna. So I was very happy when you took it off my hands, to be honest. But no, my story is going to be Exoprimal, which is coming out on the 14th. So that is in 2 days. Exoprimal is a game where you are fighting as people wearing exosuits. If you're familiar with something like Samus or the Kerberos soldiers from, I can't remember the name of that anime or manga. But anyway, you have an exosuit, and you're going to be fighting against dinosaurs. So this is made by Capcom. Obviously, people are going to be comparing it to Monster Hunter, but Capcom said they wanted a different kind of monster game. And that was part of the reason why they went with dinosaurs this time as opposed to dragons and that sort of thing. Because they thought, hey, you know what? It's just really kind of interesting to see, people at the peak of their technology facing off against nature at the peak of its ferocity. And that just seems like an interesting concept. So they went with that. The way the game plays is it's 2 teams of, I believe, 5 people. You are put in your arena or your level or whatever, your mission, and you are given different objectives. Sometimes your objectives are going to pit you against the other team. Sometimes the objectives are going to require the teams to work together. But they're going to have things like, defend the target, take out as many dinos as you can. I think there's like 5 or 6 different modes. And as you go through the mission, these modes are going to be changing up. So you're going to be changing your objectives. And then at the end, whichever team performs better is obviously the winner. As you go through, you're going to gain experience, which is going to allow you to unlock new exos. So the exos in this case are basically kind of like your classes. So, you have your shield class, you have your sniper class, you have your kind of magic casting class, that sort of thing. And then also, it will allow you to unlock new missions, new levels. So the further you go and the higher level you get, you can basically progress through the game. So there is going to be at least some level of story element to it. So yeah, this game seems to be kind of popular in the sense of interest. People are kind of like, oh, mechs fighting dinosaurs, that's cool. So yeah, I figured, why not talk about it?
That in the same vibe as Warframe, or
Yeah, I
maybe
was looking
Armor
at it.
Core?
I originally thought that this was going to be kind of like an Anthem-like thing, but the more I look at it, it looks more like maybe something between Battleborn and Overwatch. And if you've played Killzone, they have the Warzone mode. It seems a lot like the Warzone mode in a lot of ways. So I think probably the closest would be kind of a Battleborn kind of a cross between their multiplayer and or a cross between their mission-based levels and their PvP levels. So they call this PvPvE is what they're calling it. Player versus player versus environment. So
And so you said it's coming out what, next week?
it's coming out on the 14th, so in 2 days.
PS5, PC, everywhere.
PS5, PC, and
Ah.
Xbox, everywhere except Switch.
Maybe a bit too graphic demanding.
I would assume so. I would assume that would be the thing.
Yeah, I've been aware of this for a few months because one of my favorite Australian YouTubers, he covered this. He was like, "This is pretty cool, pretty fun." I guess he was worried about the longevity of this kind of game, right? Because there is so much competition in the space, and this is doing a lot of like interesting stuff. But is it enough to sort of keep you going? I mean, and then there's also the downside. Like I've complained to you guys, it's the reason I stopped playing Warframe, was that Warframe kept on giving you new stuff and new stuff. And while the basics were the same, right? Okay, every few months, maybe 2-3 months, you got a new Warframe. Maybe once a year, you got like 2 or 3 new Warframes. And that was wonderful. And then the system started building on top of each other, and then complexity on top of complexity on top of complexity. And that's kept some people engaged, but at the same time, it's lost people. So um, I think even this, right? Like this started off as a closed beta, and we got some videos on YouTube, and people like really fun. And then it went to open beta. I'm like, this hasn't changed that much. And they were hoping for something to sort of indicate what is the roadmap for this game. So I think if you're going to buy it, you should definitely keep that in mind. I mean, I guess, but as a middle-aged gamer, if this is going to be like a one and done deal, then you're fine.
Yeah, the way they seem to be, I don't think they're going to have systems on systems like Warframe. It seems like they're doing a season system similar to Apex. So I think the systems probably will be relatively simple. But yeah, I would worry about the longevity too, just because, like you said, there is a lot of competition in that market. And I feel like a lot of the attention is given to games that have a very heavy PvP focus, and this being a PvPvE, I wonder how popular it's going to be on things like streaming and stuff like that. And I feel like streaming is really what kind of determines what's popular these days, just because people want to watch it, and what people are watching, people say, I want to play that. And if this one doesn't have that same draw, because I mean, when you're playing as another player, there's a much higher level of skill level that you're going to need than if you're playing against the computer usually. So I think because of that, PvP is typically has a bigger draw. So yeah, I would worry about the longevity for it as well, but I'm sure it'll do fine in the beginning.
And you make a good point as well. Like I think back to games like Warframe and The Division as well. When Warframe came out, like maybe halfway through its like open beta cycle, there were a decent number of Warframe YouTubers. The Division was the same, Division 1, Division 2. But as you mentioned, Adam, like the downside of this, and Antoine's talked about this as well, like he's made the really good point that, like, which is what Adam just made, is that as a PvP person, streaming is definitely draws in the card. But like these sort of PvP games, I mean, look at what Phil's producing in terms of Diablo content, right? It's like, hey, here's this map, go and find this place, this hidden place, that sort of stuff. And that's what you're stuck with as a content creator making. And Adam would know that as well, right? Lore videos and that sort of stuff, because if you're PvP, right, this is the competitive element. This I'm really, really bad, or I'm really, really good, or I'm doing this challenge to get up the ranks to etc. rank, right? There's all the stuff you can do as a PvP streaming person, and it's almost like, like esports or competitive or like basketball, that sort of stuff. But like, I think one is like engaging, and the other one is sort of like informative as far as content creation goes. So it's interesting, but I think there is like you're gonna struggle to make content for this, and then by struggling for that, you're like, okay, this is too much effort as a content creator, I'm going to switch to another game. All right, and then we'll move on to my first story, which is a story I have talked about as well. And as I'm talking about this, I realize we should really organize all our disparate clips into like, hey, this is this game, etc. So my first story is going to be about Disney Illusion Island, which finally has a release date. It is coming out on July 28th. So if you're like really interested and you liked what we talked about it like a few months ago, yep, it's coming out in roughly 2 weeks. It is $40 pre-order. If you're in Australia, as usual, I'm sorry, Australia, you have to pay 50 Australian dollars, which makes it even more expensive. But yeah, no, you can pre-order it on the Nintendo Switch store, the digital version, and on Amazon as well, and on GameSpot. Pretty much anywhere you want to buy a game. As usual, wonderful hand-drawn Disney art. You can be 40 years old like me and still like the way this game looks, how pretty it is. Um, one of the cool things that I just found out about this game as well is that this offers like this really cool level of how much difficulty you want to get. So you can start off a level and say, okay, I'm pretty tired. I had a horrible day at work. I'm going to set my life to have like 5 hearts, like in a typical 2D platform, right? So you can say, okay, I want to play this the easy way today. 5 hearts, 6 hearts, 7 hearts, and you can customize your like his loadout is probably the wrong word, but the way you want to play the game. And like, okay, today I'm going to be streaming on Twitch. I'm like 1 heart for every level. If I die, I'm dead. I have to restart the level. So that's one of the cool things with this game. So it's something. Yeah, no, I have not played anything else besides Valheim and Marvel Snap for a while, and it looks like I'm not going to be playing anything soon. So I will probably pick this up on a sale. I'd love to have played this immediately, but it's not going to happen. I tried streaming this past weekend and failed horribly because I have no idea what's going on with Kick and haven't streamed in a while. So I might have to speak to Adam about tips about streaming again because my setup did not like streaming. But yeah, no, keep an eye out for this game. As I said, 2 weeks, so it is coming out. You know, it's guaranteed. Nintendo's got a release date. It's not going to be changed in the next 2 weeks. If you're a person who loves beautiful art, even if you don't like 2D platformers, you should definitely consider this.
Yeah, I know you don't like platforming.
No. I have bought a fair number of games just because they're pretty. That's it. And I play it. I'm like, okay, God, this is too hard. You suck. Delete it. But I still like will go back and say, "Hell, oh my God, oh you're so shiny."
Right, it really feels like it's touching the nostalgia kind of feeling because platformers like this, it's what we had lots of them in our childhood. I was just thinking like Earthworld Jim. I had this when I
Yeah.
was a kid. This kind of game.
Commander Key, and I think this would be a great game for Antoine for you and your kids because this is 4-player family. Like you can play it together as a family. So if you're like a kids who are a bit into Disney and Disney Channel, I think this would be wonderful. Like if I had kids, I'd like to play it this with them.
He's trying to make me play Fortnite, so you know.
All right, let's move on to Antoine's second story.
All right, so we talked about it before, but there used to be when we were kids there was a console war, Sega versus Nintendo. We all won and everything. And in the PC world, there's this kind of war, if you would say as well. It's Nvidia fanboy versus AMD, right? And I'm myself, more fair to Nvidia. Unfortunately, it seems like I lost a point today because Starfield and Bethesda have an official partnership with AMD, and so they said that they optimized the game especially for AMD. They released on the AMD website all the configurations that would work the best. So I think they talked about. So sorry if I'm destroying the name, but AMD Radeon RX 7900 XT, AMD Radeon RX 6800 series. So that's basically what you're gonna enjoy Starfield the most. It's okay if you're NVIDIA. I'm sure they're gonna optimize for NVIDIA as well because it's very agile, kind of card. Especially the bigger your card, the easier it will be for you to play. One thing though, which was mentioned is in this article, and that's something that I really like because we we're worried about the fact that there's 1,000 worlds pre-generated, and what's the point of having 1,000 empty worlds, right? And then they say, or at least Todd Howard said, this is gonna be a modder's paradise. So welcome back to Skyrim. You have a massive sandbox of 1,000 planets for modders. Enjoy, do whatever you want in space. That's basically the message which was thrown, which means that I believe when you start the game on day one, your 1,000 planets might be a bit empty, and you need to wait for a few months to wait for modders work quicker. Definitely good modders that work quick, but you might need to wait a bit like Skyrim, 6 months, a year, maybe 2, before, seeing some things which really add value to the game. And when you see what modders did with Skyrim, it's a great news. But just know about this, and it's really great that they did all the way with modders again. At least we know that we're gonna talk about Starfield in another 10 years.
What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, no, I don't know if the 1,000 planets is an advantage to modders, because I mean a modder could just add in their own planets anyway, right? So
Exactly.
you
Yes.
don't need 1,000 planets for modders to use them. They could have just been like, I'm adding, you could have had 10, and they could be like, I'm adding an 11th. But yeah, no, I think that's a good thing. I also think it's kind of a catch-22 with the whole, don't get it on release. Wait for the modders to come out, and then it's like, okay, but if nobody buys it on release, nobody's making mods. So yeah, no, I for me, I would definitely be the kind of person to say, buy it on release, play the vanilla, see how you like it, and then come back later and do the mods. That's just my personal philosophy. That's how I've always done these things. So yeah.
And if you don't know how to add mods, we can do a tutorial later, but it's very simple. Just download Nexus,
Yep.
and it will go. It has a link which is gonna send you straight to the Nexus mod website. Just create your account there, and it's extremely easy to just download, add to Nexus, and that's it. And it will, load the stuff just for you. But of course, some mods are not compatible with each other, so do your own stuff to see what works. But that's how it works.
Yeah, they also Steam supports mods now too, right? You can just do the
I never
mods straight through
tried.
there.
I never tried Steam mods because Nexus is the the big modder
Yeah, that's the
platform,
big
of
one.
course. Yes, it's a big one. But yeah, I'm sure that you can do that on Steam as well.
Steam's had a Steam mod database for a very long time. And I would even say Steam is easier than Nexus, because Nexus, you have to download the program. And then there's like Steam basically says, hey, this is your game. These are the mods available, right? You don't have to worry about compatibility. It makes it easy for lazy people like me. Whereas Nexus, you do have to put in a lot of work. Like, I wanted to play Skyrim again, and I did a few years ago, but I remember it took me like 3 or 4 days to get my Skyrim all modded up and patched up and that sort of stuff. And that's no. As a middle-aged gamer and I don't even have kids like Antoine, right? Like 4 days just to play games is not cool. Not cool at all. So until I become unemployed or disabled or something like that, that's the only way I'm going to use a mod again. To give some color to what Antoine said, right? So the big thing about AMD, right, is that with NVIDIA, right, they have a technology called ray tracing. And ray tracing, if you're not familiar with it, makes games look nice in terms of light and stuff. Now, the problem with Starfield using AMD is that all the NVIDIA people cannot use ray tracing. AMD has their own individual ray tracing solution, which is not called ray tracing, which is only available for AMD cards. So this is the problem, right? So that is why so many people are angry about it. And I mean, me being an AMD fan, even though I have an NVIDIA card, right, I think that's good. I mean, that's smart, right? To give you an example as well, right, all the Dooms were AMD exclusives, right? So when you play Doom with an AMD card and you play with an NVIDIA card, you could have an old AMD card and would still run way better than an NVIDIA card, just because that's how it's optimized. I was looking at numbers, which is my third story for today. But for example, Doom Eternal with an AMD card at 4K Ultra would run at 150 frames per second with a mid to high range AMD card. For an NVIDIA card to get that same frames per second and look beautiful, you'd need a $1,500 to $2,000 graphics card. For an AMD card, we'd need like a $900, $800 card. So this is the problem. This goes into Adam's talks. You should go back and listen to previous episodes about exclusivity, right? Which is, it does harm people, right? And it does. So if me as an NVIDIA user, there'll be things on Starfield I can't enjoy. I'll never be able to get Starfield looking as beautiful as an AMD card or running as efficiently, because unless I dump a whole lot of money into a new graphics card, that's pretty much it. And I mean, but this is a competitive thing, right? It just encourages people to buy AMD graphics cards. And AMD's they've been banking the cash since the Ryzen processors have been doing so well. So good for them. And Nvidia is moving on to OpenAI, ChatGPT stuff anyway. So I mean, you guys can blame Nvidia.
Yeah, I heard people were complaining just because was it Jedi? Not was it
Survivor.
Jedi Survivor and The Last of Us, a PC port, were both AMD or both designed for AMD, and both of those had bad launches on PC. So people were like, "There's a history here that we're concerned about." Um, so
Yeah, no. I mean, my friend that I talk about all the time, he has a top of the end or last generation top of the end graphics card, and he has had issues with his AMD card for a while. And I mean, this is in large part due to the what you know AMD's been on the back foot for a long time. So games haven't been optimizing for AMD. So now they're just only catching up. All right, Adam, what is your second story?
So my second story is, there we go. This isn't a trending thing, but I saw it and I was like, this is actually kind of interesting. So I wanted to talk about it. PlayStation has recently filed a patent that what you can do is a person, when they play a certain, boss fight or play a certain portion of a game, they can basically upload tips that they have acquired, or tips that they have to offer. They can upload those online, and then people can later, if they're struggling with certain parts of the game, can then go, just click a button or whatever, and they can basically have access to these tips of, professional gamers or whatever on how to get through these situations. So they have a patent for this, but the way it works is it's not just, like a YouTube tutorial. You can get in there, you can see basically this person's kind of walkthrough that they say this is what you should do. And if you're still struggling, then what would happen is you could basically just ping and say like, hey, I'm struggling in this part. And then people who are, uploading these tutorials or whatever would basically, just receive a little ping saying, hey, somebody's looking for help. And then it would connect those two players. So the higher level player could actually then communicate in chat with this lower level player and help walk them through it. So basically it's kind of a tutoring system where you can offer your services as basically a gaming tutor kind of in a way. And then when somebody is struggling, they say, hey, I need help. And then they would connect you with other players, and those players would then be able to assist you. But also, they basically went through and said there in the patent, there's actually a thing about possibly monetizing this, where if you are acting as one of these tutors, you could actually make money doing this. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if they would be paid in cash or if this would be more like you're getting like, funds added to your PlayStation wallet. I'm not sure. I personally doubt that they would actually implement this. I think this is probably just one of those things where, a lot of times they file patents and they're like, we just don't want anybody else to jump on it. So we want to make sure that we have the rights to this. But yeah, I saw it was, and that was kind of like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So I figured, why not share the news? And I see Antoine's not too thrilled with this.
Well, okay. First, it destroys the fact that you can have a good challenge with the game. Imagine this on what was this cartoony boss monster, Cuphead.
Oh yes,
I can understand that on Cuphead because Cuphead is insanely hard for me. I'm not a pro player. On any other game, I like the Elden Ring system where you have the little cardboard, the card on the ground, and it can either be a good advice or a troll. That's good because you roll the dice. Did they just monetize the fact that you press the start button, go from hard difficulty to normal or easy? Because that's what you do, right? It's I want to play hard for the challenge. It's just too hard. You know what? I can't do this boss. Go back to normal. I passed the boss. Okay, I go back to hard. You know what? Not too many steps. Let's make people pay for that now. So, no,
it's closer
So,
to it wouldn't be so much like that as much as it would be like they're reducing the number of steps of you playing a boss, you saying like, man, this is hard, and then you pick up your phone, go to YouTube, and look for a walkthrough or a tutorial on how to beat the boss on YouTube. Basically, it's shortening that, and then it would allow you to communicate with other people who have already beaten this boss, and then they can give you advice. So I mean, it's optional. You can totally skip it if you don't like it. But yeah, it's basically saying instead of having to look up the game on YouTube and look up how to beat the boss on YouTube, it would be a much more streamlined process for that. So I mean, it's not adding functionality that you don't have; it's just streamlining it.
Yeah, I'm just sad for the developers who, create certain patterns to make boss fight epic. Do you want an epic boss fight, or do you just want an easy one? Yeah, okay, on your reason.
Well, but I mean, YouTube already does this, right?
Yes. Well, that doesn't mean I approve, right?
No, it doesn't mean you have to approve of it.
No, I'm very much for this idea. I think it's cool. I mean, this goes into like the Steam Notes thing. Adam and I talked about last week, where, except like you're making your own notes, right? But I don't think games should be gated by difficulty, right? Like there's some games like you can't change the difficulty slider. Why? I want to play this game. This looks cool. Oh my god, Antoine's playing Elden Ring. I want to play Elden Ring. I want it to be easy. Why should I be stuck, right? Why should I have to alt tab, look up a YouTube video, or look on my phone and waste my gaming time, right? I want to hit a button and say, hey, dude, do you want to come help me? And the cool thing is, as somebody who is working from home, right, I make some cool online friends. We're like, oh, hey, Peter from Australia. Oh, this is how you solve this grid. Oh, thanks, man. Oh, do you want to play the Division 2 sometime? Yeah, sure, why not, right? I mean,
no, I can't monetize helping players. Tough time.
I think even that is a great idea, right? Like if you're making content to help somebody, like that's fantastic, right? I mean, that's what we do, right? We're making content to help people and keep people informed, and we're gonna get paid before the end of the year, one way or another, right? So why not?
I like the optimism there. Again, for me, it's circumstantial. Cuphead, fair enough. It's insanely hard, and any tips is good to take. Casual games, which are already casual, just casualize them even more. Well, I mean, why not? You need every kind of taste in the world, right? So
exactly that. It's just like some people, for something, right? Like some people play Cuphead, they're like, oh my god, this is too easy, right? And some people like me and like you try Cuphead, like, oh my god, why?
Tough.
Yes. Okay, then let's move on to my third story, which is Steam family sharing. Gamers, middle-aged gamers, did you know you can save money and not pay for extra games? Because do you have a brother or sister or cousin, right? And do you not live in the same countries? And well, wonderful thing, right, is that with Steam family sharing, oh, Mr. Gray, you have the wrong video.
What? This is the one you uploaded, right? Oh, sorry. My mistake.
No worries. I will start again. This is the one I recorded yesterday because I could not find a way to cheat out this video. Okay, take two. Gamers, did you know Steam family sharing is a thing? Are you a Steam user? Do you have a brother or sister in another country? Guess what? You can double or triple your Steam family collection. To give you a good example, right? My Steam collection was probably about 400 games, maybe like a few years ago when we started doing this. And when Steam family sharing launched, I'm like, cool. I talked to my brothers and I looked online. I'm like, hey, and let's share our games. And the cool thing is, like, you don't actually have to be family. So I can actually share my Steam collection with Adam, right? And Adam and I are not related. You can see that by the color of our skin. I can't believe I said that.
You don't know that. We could be cousins.
Exactly. But no. So you don't have to be family. It's just like Netflix, right? Just like Disney Plus. Like I share my Disney Plus with some friends. Netflix as well. Even though Netflix is clamping down on that, Steam has not mentioned that. So the way Steam family sharing works is like if I shared my collection with Adam, Adam can see all the games I have. He can install any game I have on his computer that would run on his computer as long as I'm not playing it at the same time. So as soon as Adam installs a game, I'm like, hey, Adam is playing Project Zomboid, right? And okay, so that means I can't play it, right? But if you're a middle-aged gamer like us, right, and you've been a Steam member since like 15 years ago, you have a lot of games. So if Adam's playing this game, you have a lot of choices of other stuff to play, right? So it's a great way to test the game. And it's not like the Steam demo time, right, which is like 90 minutes or something, right? So if Adam plays something from my Steam collection, he can play it forever and he can finish it and not have to buy the game, which might sound bad, right? I guess it is kind of bad in some ways, right? But yeah, a really fast, efficient way. All it is, you go to File, Settings, as you're watching the video. If you're watching the YouTube live stream right now, click Family Sharing. You invite somebody who's already a Steam friend, and they have to accept, you have to accept, and then from then, they're authorized to see your entire Steam collection. When you click on Library in Steam, you can see their collection and your collection, and then you're good to go. That's it.
So when you set up who's in your family, I mean, there's got to be restrictions there. Like you can't just be swapping people in and out left and right, right? Like, I mean,
that I'm not 100% sure. I'm not swapped anybody. Like we set this up like as soon as Steam Family Sharing was launched a few years ago, and we just never like updated it. But like whenever my brother buys a game, I'm like, hey, my brother's Steam name is Dr. ZA. Hey, Dr. ZA just bought this game. Oh, it's now available in your Steam library. Or whenever I buy something, my brother sees it's available in their Steam library. So it's a really cool, really fast. Like this should not take you longer than 60 seconds for you to set up. It's like Antoine and his brother could do it and share their Steam library, right? And it's a really great way to try out some new games. And being middle-aged gamers, being able to write like, hey, I play this through my brother Antoine's account. I'm going to buy it to support the developer, right? Why not?
So how many people can you have in your family?
5, just like Disney Plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's pretty good.
Sweet.
And that, like really, like, I mean, I could share my Steam collection with you guys if you wanted as well.
I
And
can try that.
yeah, and I'm guessing you can't be, like, for instance, if you added your brothers and you already have 5 people in your family and I create my own family, I wouldn't be able to add you to my family because you're already in one, right?
Again, wouldn't know. I should have looked all of this stuff up, but no, I just
Otherwise,
was
we
like,
could just make a family chain.
but I'm sure Steam has some restrictions.
I'm sure they have to.
Yeah. It's and it's funny enough. I don't know too many. I mean, beyond, I don't know anybody who's using Steam Family Sharing beyond my brothers and I. Like, Hans, like I know you are not using that as well, despite you having a fairly large family.
I'm the only real gamer in. Oh no, my youngest brother, but I don't know. He has a new kid, so I don't know how much he games these days.
So yeah, no, even my brother, like I mean, beyond my brothers, I know they're not Steam Family Sharing with anybody else. And it's also, I think, because of our age group as well. Like you Steam Family Share once. Like I think I've used Steam Family Sharing 6 times in the last 3 years since we started it. I mean, just because I have an extensive collection as well, and now with the Switch, yeah, no, it's also maybe for our demographic, maybe this is also another thing.
So on top of your backlog, you add other people backlogs as well.
Exactly, Antoine.
I would think our demographic would be
Hell of backlog.
yeah, part of the core. You know, parents sharing with their children.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Like, hey, I already have a collection, and my kids want to play. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I mean, maybe a little bit older than us, I would think would be part of the core demographic. Especially, you know, because like you know with Antoine, you know, the kids are living in the house, but I would think you know older parents whose kids are going off to college and that sort of thing would be kind of a core demographic where your families are split up across multiple households.
That makes sense. Nice. All right, let's move on to Antoine's third story, if he has one. No, he doesn't. All right, Adam's third story.
My third one was going to be the FTC one, so I don't have it either.
Okay, so my third story. Ooh, wonderful.
That's why I got confused and hit the wrong video. Because I was like, oh, everyone's videos are done. We're on Korean's last video. But no, we were on your middle one.
Okay, so as usual, hot and trending topics. You guys are very curious about NVIDIA's RTX 4060. And with good reason as well, right? It is the current mid-range suggested graphics card. And just to summarize it for people, right? So if you're thinking about buying a graphics card, I know a lot of you are like, okay, I have a 3000 series graphics card. I mean, similar to me, right? I have a 3070 Ti. Do I want to get a 4070 Ti? What is the difference, right? So if you're watching the live stream, and you should be on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, right? You can see this is from NVIDIA's own channel as well, and this shows some of the difference in frame rate and power used. So it is hot everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere. You do want to try and be conservative with how much power you're using. So as usual, and I've talked about this in previous videos, right? Newer series of graphics cards have smaller GPUs, which means they use less power. Using less power saves you money at the end of 2 months or 1 month, however often you pay your electricity bill. So the 4060, right, is a clock speed of 2.4 gigahertz. The 3660 is 1.78. The 3060 has more RAM though. That kind of helps, right, with higher resolution games. So if you're a 4K gamer, more RAM means you get to play 4K games better. You need at least 8 gigabytes of video RAM to play 4K games. The price point though, the 4060 is only $300, which is pretty damn cheap for a card. Now I will say that these graphics cards are not going to get you 4K. These are mid-tier, just mid-tier games. So these are going to get you 1440p. I remember seeing a lot of this, like for some games, you'll get really good 1440p, like 120 frames per second. Some games like Cyberpunk, unfortunately, going back to what Antoine's talked about as well, will only get you 30 frames per second with being the latest mid-tier graphics card, and this is solely on CD Projekt Red. So, but yeah, no, if you have a 3060, the overall deciding point is what's the difference, right? What benefit I'm going to get by upgrading? You're only going to get a few 10, 15 frames per second. That's it. Like that's the difference with most games. Again, going back to what Antoine said with Starfield as well, right? If you're getting a mid-tier AMD card, upgrading from old mid-tier cards, so this will do really good if you're preparing for Starfield, right? If you're playing a game like this, shows the Returnal trailer, right? Returnal, again, optimized for NVIDIA cards. If you had an old 30 series card, you want to play Returnal a little bit better, or maybe a lot better for NVIDIA, yeah, that's a good way to go. So, yep, basically TLDR, if you have a 2 series graphics card, buy a 4 series graphics card. If you have a 3 series graphics card and you're a big fan of Returnal or some other sort of NVIDIA optimized games, yes, get it. Otherwise, no, it's not worth it. You can wait another series. Like I have a 30 series card. I will probably switch this out next year for a 5 series AMD card because I do want to switch to an all AMD because the other side of the coin is that if you have all AMD, everything, AMD has specific tech that allows you to get an extra 10, 15% performance in gaming and in workloads if you have everything AMD in your computer.
So what if you have a 10 series card like me?
Yeah, of course. Like, I mean, basically, if you're more than 2 generations behind, you should have updated.
Yeah, I'm there as well.
You guys, I mean, you guys are not, like Antoine is busy as well, and Adam has a PlayStation 5, which he plays most of his gaming on.
No, but to be honest, I have a 1660 Ti and I run Diablo 4 very well. I mean, I'm not playing, not Starfield, but Star Citizen, which need very high CPU or Cyberpunk or stuff like this. So, unless you have a very power hungry game.
And going back to your Diablo point, like Diablo is one of those games that is purposely optimized because lots of people who like Diablo don't have amazing PCs.
Mm-hmm. Do we know? Because we talked about big games being AMD exclusives, but as you said, they are playing catch up. Do we know about what the market share between AMD and NVIDIA? Because in my head, that was always like NVIDIA was far in front, like at least 70% of the market being.
You're so right. They're still far ahead. AMD's caught up. What AMD's done a big way is caught up on the CPU market in a big way. So they've climbed up. I remember the last number was like, they were like 10% 10 years ago. They're now like 30-something%. And they're doing big in like servers and stuff. But graphics cards, they're still fairly behind, even though their graphics cards have come a long way. And because I saw this story, and this reminds me of Adam and Battleborn, and this is going to make a good short. So a PC Gamer asked this earlier this week. It is only Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. So they said, what's one game you'd like them to remake? I guess let's start with Antoine first. Antoine, what's a game you'd like them to remake that they killed already?
Give me 10 minutes.
Okay, so we're going to Adam first.
I answered this question on Twitter. I said Bushido Blade for sure. Yeah, Battleborn would be up there, but Bushido Blade would be my number one choice. I'd also
tell us why Bushido. Blade?
Because there's no game like it. I mean, it was unique in the sense that it was, every other game, pretty much fighting game, uses some sort of life mechanic where you have a life bar, that goes from 100% down to 0%, or you do something a little bit different, like for instance the Super Smash, where you have a percentage where the higher your percentage, the more impact you receive from a hit. But Bushido Blade was, it was you take one hit, you're dead. So it was very much about blocking and parrying and that sort of thing. So it was. I mean, granted, a lot of it was kind of auto block back then, but it was just one of those things where it was just yeah. There's nothing that's been really kind of like that. I mean, it'd be like playing. Like people enjoy the Dark Souls games for their mechanics, right? The blocking, the parrying, the dodging. It's like basically imagine a PvP game. It's those mechanics, but you make one mistake, you die. But the other guy makes one mistake, he dies, right? So yeah, and then it just, because of that, it just makes it just refreshes the sessions really quickly, so you can just do it over and over and over and over and over again, and it just counts how many times you kill the guy. So yeah, there's no game like that, and I think there should be.
That is the perfect short. Thank you, Antoine. All right, give me another short. What's your game that you'd like to be remade?
Well, I think we already talked about it before, and my answer has not changed. It's total annihilation. Sorry for my accent, but yes, that's I don't even know how to qualify this game, but this game like Red Alert, like Total Annihilation, some very old, out of fashion game now. No, nobody would play that anymore. But at the time, especially playing with three other friends, that was fantastic because you make a strategy to attack other players, and your armies actually, when you destroy somebody else's army, is just scrap metal on the ground that you go to recycle to add to your own resources. Just that concept itself was fantastic at the time, especially when you had like hundreds of helicopter attacking, and you're really trying to save your base and finally kill them, and all these sweet resources come right to your gate. That was cool. There was plenty of strategy in this, and I'd love to have a remake of this.
Me too. That's cool. And I mean, I just found like people like these. Like, I just download the trailer, put it on top of what you just said, and then we have a wonderful short, and people love that stuff apparently. Very cool. All right, so Adam, given your crazy schedule, we saw you stream once this week. Any possibility of further streaming this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be streaming on my Monday and Thursday evenings. So probably Thursday evening, which should be Thursday morning in the West, stateside, Canada side.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Antoine, what about you? Are you playing? Do you have time to play, considering you just got back and you're going back to work like crazy?
No, not that much really. No, I'm just trying to think like Phil. Basically, if we want to be monetized by the end of the year, we need more long video. So I'm trying to think what kind of long video would work, because I know that the Fuga one was the first one it worked well, second one not so much. I still have anyway some Fuga video to release. Whether it work or not, I don't think it's gonna affect the channel too much. So I'm gonna release that in the coming months. But yeah, need to try to think of a good format which would work and racking the hours basically.
Yep. And then the cool thing is that we did hear from YouTube's own representative saying, "Hey, bad videos don't hurt your channel. So the more you try, the more it works. The only thing that's gonna hurt is just our time. That's it." So that's something to keep in mind for any middle-aged gaming end creator. But with that, we'll call today's show to a close. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I know you guys are decently loving Spotify, so why not? So keep an eye out for the podcast. Keep an eye out for the videos. Again, one video drops every single day, right? Every single day you get to watch one of us talk about something we care about, something you're probably passionate about. So please make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you do hit that notification icon, because otherwise you will never know when a new video drops, right? It's just going to appear on your feed occasionally or luckily, right? If you're playing to the algorithm gods. But yeah, we'd love to see more engagement, love to see more subscribers. And then we'll see you guys same time next week, Wednesday, Tuesday, depending on your times.
Catch you later.
Thanks. Have a good night.